with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda. Are there any changes, additions, deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda approved. Approval of the minutes. We have two batches of minutes. We have the special meeting, executive session minutes from the 22nd of May and June 5th, as well as the minutes from our May 13th meeting. No, when was our last meeting? May 9th? May 9th. Are there any changes, additions, corrections, deletions to the minutes from either executive sessions or our regular meeting on the 9th of May? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve minutes from the executive sessions and our May 9th meeting. Or is Ira still looking at them?
I just wanted to check one thing.
Okay, okay.
Can you just, 2
Yep,
seconds?
yep.
Yeah, I was supposed to do something, I want to make sure I did it.
Did you do it?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any changes?
No.
Additions? Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Both.
So made.
Second? Is there a second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? Minutes are approved. Public comment. Eileen?
So I'm Ellen Rocco, one of the.
Come on up to the table. Come on up to the table.
Did you say you're a resident? Did you say you're a resident of the village? Thank you.
Okay. First of all, I would like to say that we have had two really pleasant experiences. And the only problem is that I asked and then didn't write down the name of the responding officer, so I can't tell you this person's name.
Well, I'm sure if you gave us a
But I
time and
can-
date.
I'm not even sure I can do that, but I can give you a description, and as long as it doesn't sound like a rude description, I'm sure you'll know who I mean.
Is it during the day? Between the hours of 7 and 3?
One was during the day and one was at night. One was afternoon or whenever, one was in the evening. A woman, lovely, blonde hair back in a bun. Got it?
I think
You know
so.
who it is.
Officer Quigley.
Officer Quigley.
Okay. She responded, she happened to be the officer responding to two different times that we called. Once I called and once Tom called. And she was respectful, efficient, took our concerns seriously. It could not have been, and she was successful. It could not have been a better or more comfortable interaction.
Good.
Very good to hear.
Okay. However,
There's always a but. There's always a but.
that's why I'm here. I have two questions. I suppose one of them may be a simpler one. We find it rather disconcerting that when we call in a complaint, we're asked for our date of birth. And I don't understand why that is.
We take down all information on anybody we have contact with, whether you're a calling party or somebody that we deal with in a negative reason. We always take down your name, date of birth, address. It's all the pedigree information because the information we put into our system is so if we need to get any information back out, we know it's the same person. There's many people with the same names, maybe not exactly for yours, but many people have the same name, so we're able to separate that based on date of birth, along with all the other information that we have.
So if I didn't want to give that information because I feel like it's an invasion of my privacy?
If you don't want to give it, we're not going to, obviously, we're still going to handle any complaint that comes in.
Okay.
It's helpful for us to have it, but we never make any, but even if you want to be anonymous, again, we can only do so much with an anonymous complaint. Not giving you a date of birth, that's better than
Right,
anonymous.
I'm happy to give my
Yes.
address, and
Yep.
certainly I'm happy to give my name, but I really am not comfortable.
You can just tell the dispatch that I'd rather not give my date of birth,
Okay.
but this is my name, this is my address, this is my phone number.
Okay, and they see my phone number
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they know
yeah,
what my
yeah.
phone number is. Okay, so that brings me to my my issue. On April 20th, there was an outdoor party at or near Cabaloosa. I and at least one other person that I know of called in a noise complaint. The music was extremely loud, and each of us was told that by the dispatcher, that this was a permitted event, and so there was nothing they could do. It would run from 1 to 9. So
One
my
in the-
first part
one
of
in
my-
the afternoon
till
to 9 in the evening? Okay.
The first part of my question is, even if there had been a permit, that would not have disallowed intervention because of the noise. So I don't understand why that wasn't attended to. And then my second question is, because afterwards I did some asking of the village clerk and a village board member, and, and everybody said, no, first of all, it was private property. You wouldn't have needed a permit. There was no permit. There is no permit appropriate for that. And so I don't understand why that information was the information we were given.
I know that for that event, they did file something or try to get some approval from the village, but what they needed to get a permit for was for the state liquor authority. And I think the confusion was that it was a state liquor authority permit that was issued. I know they did go there on a noise complaint and asked them to lower it down.
We
but-
then called back, and they said there was nothing they could do. There was a permit.
I'll have to look into to see exactly what happened here. That
The
shouldn't have been the
music
case.
actually, and one of the things that the dispatcher actually said was, but there aren't a lot of people there, so they may not do it all the way until 9 o'clock. So clearly, the operating understanding was that this event had some kind of permission that, and the other thing is, could you clarify something for me? If it's, why would they need a liquor authority? My understanding is that it was on private property.
Because the location that had the party was a business downtown, so it was part of their property. They needed a permit because they have a liquor license for their establishment. They wanted to expand that to the parking lot area for serving just beer, not alcohol or liquor, but it was just beer and wine outside the premise. And I think, because I did speak to the village clerks, they were looking to get some type of a permit authorization because of the use of the property, and I don't think they needed to actually get a permit through the village.
That's my understanding,
Yeah.
is that they didn't. So I'm sorry, just let me, so, just so I'm clear about this, so it was, it wasn't simply, it wasn't a coincidence that the person who was holding the party happened to have a business. It actually was an event that was connected to the business.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Actually, maybe Ariana might know the answer to this, but I'm under the impression that if a resident has a problem with noise and complains to the police department, that the police department, if they could verify the noise is really very noisy, gets in touch with the building inspector, who goes over there with the decibel and measures the noise, because it must, for her, I know where she lives, and I know where the party was. So for her to be bothered at her house, it must have been pretty loud, and I don't understand why, if that is in the chain of events, that we don't contact the building inspector to go over the decibel, check it out. Does anybody?
Well,
My
I can respond to that. There is no law that talks about the decibel reading. We were working on a noise ordinance a couple years back, trying to get maybe that section put back into the law, but there's a lot of gray area, a lot of challenges that came out the last time when we used it, so that has never been put back in the law.
So we don't use it?
We don't use that section. We don't use, there's no law.
We don't
where it
use
talks
the
about
decibel
reader.
now?
No, not at all.
I don't even, I've never heard of the village
Well, I know they were going
The
over.
police would do that, and we would
Yeah,
go there,
that's
because
what I thought.
Okay.
we do still have the unit that we've had from probably 20 years ago. We talked about maybe buying a couple more of them and getting this law put in, but it never made it past for that section of the law to be re-implemented for the village code. If there is a noise complaint, we always send an officer out. That's why for the dispatch, and I will look into it, because the answer should never be, well, there's nothing we can do about it. We'll always send an officer. I know we did send officers down there a couple times, because I remember looking at the case, and I remember speaking to the liquor authority before it was granted, and there was some different things that was evaluated. Everything they did was by the book of what they should have done to hold that outside gathering. And again, we did send officers down there, I know, asked them just to lower it down. We didn't tell them to shut it off because it was a daytime event,
And I wouldn't have needed, I mean,
Right.
as a resident, I wouldn't have needed them to shut it off, but I certainly would have needed.
Yeah, I think what happened on that, if I remember correctly, because I know this was a little while back, I believe the sergeant actually ended up sending somebody down, and then the sergeant went down, I think, a second time, because dispatch thought that it was permitted, there was nothing they can do, and I believe the sergeant corrected it on the shift and did send somebody down. They probably just didn't call you back to
Well,
say,
I know
oh,
it,
yeah, we're
and I
gonna
know
send
it didn't go till 9 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah.
But, okay.
Did you notice if it did quiet down a little bit after you
Well, it
called?
did, but I assumed,
Okay.
based on what the dispatcher had said about,
Yeah.
well, it's not particularly well attended, and so it probably isn't going to, maybe it won't go till 9 o'clock anyway. I just kind of.
Yeah, I believe they went down and had them turn it down after your
that
call,
that's,
because I remember speaking to the sergeant,
what it
and
is.
he said that, this, and I didn't realize it was you that called, and it's kind of coming back to me now. And I remember that the sergeant said, they said we couldn't do anything, but we still sent an officer down. So we always do, no matter what time of day it is, because even though it might be reasonable during the day to do certain things, if we receive a complaint, we will send somebody out to just see if it can be adjusted a little bit. If it's machinery or things of that nature, sometimes they can't, but when it comes to music or some type of disturbance that way, we try to at least alleviate it the best we can.
Was that a new dispatch, maybe?
It may have been.
Yeah. We've got a
I have to
few
look and see who
new,
it
so
is, but-
it's,
They were very nice,
that's good.
but it was certainly not a satisfying.
Yeah. See, I think what happens also is, anytime there's an event that we're aware of like that, we put a notice out to everybody working at, there's an event going down at a certain location. So she may have assumed that because the event's known, that there's nothing that can be done. But
was a
again,
he.
a he dispatcher?
I'm 99% sure it was a he.
It may have been the one in training then, that's probably why.
Deep voice?
No, not that I'm remembering. And as I said, a very pleasant, I mean, he really sounded
Yeah.
very sympathetic, which was, mildly comforting. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a public comment that is, comes from the Bike Ped Committee. What? What was that?
I didn't say anything.
I think he said boo hiss.
One of the things that came up in the meeting actually last month, not this past Monday, was the idea that there have been a couple of incidents recently. You actually brought up the one that was about the child being hit by
yeah.
a car up by the teen scene. There were a couple bicycle accidents recently, and the village planner, along with the bicycle pedestrian committee, was talking about just the idea of increased safety and how we can't necessarily mitigate problems if we don't know that they're occurring, and why is it that we hear these things through the grapevine and we don't know about it, and they were just wondering, like, is there a log of this kind of information and can it be shared? And then the idea came up, and it's actually nice that you're here, Mike, because one of the things that came up in the meeting was the idea that oh damn, this totally just went out. It was that the New Paltz Times could have a police blotter that helps the community know what is going on.
Like an accident log?
Like an accident log. Maybe we don't need to know every time somebody is like busted for marijuana, but
Maybe we don't want to put
Hit
everybody's
by a
name
bike.
in the paper.
Right, exactly. We're not necessarily looking for things like that, but things that really could help with like safety issues.
For bikes.
Yeah, I mean, for
Well,
for them, it's bikes in particular, and they actually went and looked at the county, contacted someone on the county level to get like just a data log of
Yeah.
injuries
Well,
and things like that.
I can tell you, and I spoke to the chief about it, I had coffee with Bill Weinstein,
Oh, cool.
okay, about this very issue.
All right.
And he asked for copies of accident reports that involved bicycles. And I told him that the proper procedure for that would be to file a FOIL request
Okay.
with the department, and the chief or whoever does it there would turn over the information that was public information. I think they would redact names and personal information, but you would have the information related to the types of accidents and, was it 2 bikes or 3, I guess, or whatever. But I suggested that the proper procedure would be to file a FOIL request
Okay.
to do that, so that we could have a record and everybody was protected, so that we're just not handing out information willy-nilly.
Okay.
A little further on that is, we talked about doing it quarterly. 'Cause we don't have a lot of bike accidents, but
Right.
if he does it quarterly, it won't be, constantly turning in a form. I gave him the access to where to get the forms from. I said, you can put down the information you want, just leave the date out, make copies, and just date it and sign it and send it in quarterly, and we can get the information to him.
Cool. I mean, I also imagine that a lot of bike accidents are not necessarily reported. Unless somebody is seriously injured and needs to go to the
Usually
hospital.
usually if a car is involved, a report will still be done.
Okay.
If a bike is just having an accident on its own, or 2 bikes hit, or.
Right, I think it's
generally-
much more
yeah.
vehicular and bicycles is
Or
what they were
pedestrians and
looking for. Or
pedestrians,
pedestrians and, vehicles. Exactly. But I just told them I would bring that to everybody here, so.
Thank
A
you.
number of years ago, I had asked the police department to consider giving tickets to the bike riders who think they're above the law. And this is where your problem comes in. You go down Main Street, you see trucks tearing down the sidewalk. When you take somebody like me, I can't get out of their way. You see them coming down the wrong side of the street. You see them making illegal turns. You see them going through red lights.
Right.
And the bike ped committee, and this is why I say what I said, we're going to send out informational pamphlets or whatever to all their bike riders, or somehow saying you're not above the law,
They
follow
did.
the law. It's very easy for you to go in and out on a little bicycle, but you forget that a 3,000-pound car isn't stopping in 2 feet the way you do.
Right.
So when you cut them off, or you go around them, or you come down the wrong side, and they were going to do this. and
They did do it. They have a bicycle etiquette pamphlet where it's some of it is just the idea of being polite, but other parts of it are the law.
I don't have any problem, with them being given concern, like a motorcycle, that they have to get a little extra consideration because they can't be seen. But when they start doing things like, we're doing everybody a
Right.
favor by riding our bikes instead of our cars, and that's where you get the problem.
There's definitely, I think, 2 factions of the community, and the Bike Ped Committee is all about following those kinds of rules.
as long as-
Whereas,
We don't have bike lanes.
the average bicyclist who's just getting around town might not be. And not having bike lanes that are, set aside is, I know for
We're
myself,
100%
I
in
am
accord with, I've always said,
terribly
we need
scared
bike
of going
lanes.
down Main Street, and I've been doing it, but it scares me, so,
No,
yeah.
I've always been supportive of bike lanes. It's something that we should
Oh,
have.
God, yeah.
It's something we should have.
Right,
There's no reason
but
we-
that's
particularly for a biking
not
community.
this,
Can I ask you a
group's
question?
purview, of course.
Where can somebody get a hold of the manual if they want to read it, if they want a copy?
That's a good question. I know that they have copies of them, and they had put them
Are
all
they
around
available at
town.
town hall?
But I don't know if they are. I know they have been in the past. But I think that maybe just another round of that. I'll bring this
couldn't
back to
hurt.
the committee
It really
happily.
couldn't
Yeah. Another round of doing it is a good idea. Bill Weinstein told me that he once thought about standing on the rail trail, and he did this and tried to give the pamphlets as bikers were going past. He said that was ineffective. But leaving them around town, I think, worked a little bit
no,
better.
it's-
But maybe if the village could post it on our
Yeah,
website, I
and
only thought
maybe
of that.
maybe there's some
with you
PDFs,
asking
and we
it.
could get it onto our public access, and people at home can read all about it.
Maybe the bike
Because this
shops
is
also.
this is the first
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
That's a good place.
About it.
In the bike shops,
Mm-hmm.
where they rent those bikes particularly.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that
Do
all
they
of that
also, does the Bike Ped Committee also concern itself with skateboarding?
I would say generally not. Not that they're not concerned with it, but it's not something that it's not one of the things that they advocate, for or against.
Well, I'm just
It's never
thinking
really
safety.
come up.
Meandering down the street
I
on
know
the
one of
skateboard.
the items, which not so much about with traffic, breaking laws of that nature, but we're working with the Ulster County Chiefs Association with getting helmets to hand out to kids. 'Cause you have to
wow.
wear a helmet up to the age of 14.
Right.
It's the law.
So some, yes, and some
I
kids
thought
that
everyone
don't have
had
it
to wear a
can't afford it.
helmet.
No, the law only requires up to the age of 14.
Interesting.
That's
You
for
know,
bikes
for
and for
bicycles.
skateboards.
I think the law just talks about bicycles. It doesn't talk about
So they'll
skateboards.
give us helmets to give out?
We're trying to get some helmets so that, and the Chiefs Association, along with the Ulster County Sheriff's Department, are going to try to come up with a lot of helmets to hand out to each police agency in
It's a great
Ulster
idea.
County. So if you see a kid without a helmet, rather than giving a ticket to the parent, maybe they can't afford one, give them a helmet. So,
That's cool.
yeah, so we're working on that idea now.
I seem to have lost the only pen I had. Does anyone have a pen?
You want a pencil? I got a spare
Pencil will
one.
work, yeah. All right,
You can
cool,
keep that one
thanks.
too.
Really?
I bought that myself. I have a new lot in, actually, they're black ones with white ink this time. Just got them in today.
Fancy.
No, I'll talk to you.
Cool, well, thanks.
I want to talk to you about
Any other? Is- did you
No,
have
no, that
anything
was
else?
really it. So thank you. I think that's all, that's good feedback, certainly for them.
Okay, any other public comment? Questions by the commission? No? Okay. Let's move on to reports and follow-up. Chief's report, please.
Gesundheit.
Thanks. Thanks.
I still have this page. I'm studying it.
3 letters of commendation for this month. The first one is addressed to me for the police department. We hold TIPS training. We've been doing it now for, I believe, 9 years, maybe going into 10 years. I'm one of the TIPS instructors, but through the community partnership grant, where they actually have funds now to keep the program going. Ulster County Stop DWI used to purchase our manuals. What TIPS is you have off-premise and also on-premise. Generally speaking, we do the on-premise TIPS training, which are for bartenders, servers of alcohol in establishments. And it's a training intervention procedure course that we put on. And it teaches you basically how to identify underage drinkers, over-intoxication, and how to curb that back in a proper, good etiquette way. So we've been doing this for a lot of years. We're doing it more. But this is a letter just thanking us for the continuing of this program and how it is good for the community here and helping to prevent intoxication and related injuries. And this is from United States Senator Charles Schumer. So that was a very nice letter
That's
to
great.
receive. We have a letter from management from one of the apartment complexes in town thanking us for assistance during graduation for the college this year. That time of year, especially when it's a housing for college students, they could get a little rowdy with the celebrations of the graduation festivities. Not Park Point yet. At any rate, they called just to appreciate the hard work of the officers passing through and handling any complaints that did come in. So just want to show appreciation to the members. We also have another letter of appreciation from Lieutenant Woods from SUNY Police, the State University, for again assisting with graduation. Every year we'll assist with traffic flow, either going into campus or coming out. So they just want to express their appreciation for us assisting them in that as well. Defensive actions for the month, there's 2 with a total of 4 reports. 2 reports are filled out for each. The first one being for a 32 years of age female, 5'7", white, 98 pounds, small build. This was in regards to a MHL pickup.
What, Chief? I didn't hear.
MHL, mental health.
Yeah, I know. I didn't hear what you said without the microphone.
Oh yeah, where are they tonight?
Here.
No, those aren't the ones. Those aren't the ones.
Can everybody hear me good out there? Good. We had, the 2 were, the individual was a involuntary transport, and the person needed to be handcuffed to be transported to the hospital. During that time, wrist restraints were used, and a takedown as the individual was flailing with the officers. Taken into custody for the MHL and transported without any further incident. The individual did complain of shoulder pain, but was checked out, but the transport wasn't in regards to the complaint of pain. The next defensive action report has to do with a disorderly conduct arrest, which also led to a resisting arrest. Subject was involved in an altercation at a local establishment. One officer used a armbar wrist lock to gain compliance to get the subject handcuffed and placed in custody as the person was fighting. This person was also transported to the hospital due to injuries from the altercation, not from the arrest or the defensive action from the officers. That subject was a 24-year-old male, 6'3", 165 pounds, medium build, and he was also reprimanded to county jail after release from the hospital. So during this time, the officer did accompany him to the hospital, waiting for his evaluation, and then subsequently being released and arraigned by a local judge. That's the only ones.
That's it?
That's it.
I just have a follow-up because of the public comment. Do you have a follow-up on Mr. Hernandez?
I
You know,
have
he
spoken
came in,
with
but
him.
I know you went away, so I don't
Yeah.
know if you had a chance to
I
follow
did
up.
speak with him. I actually met with him. He called me again just the other day. I left him a message Monday, and I'll be back in contact with him. I want to go and evaluate his properties and see if there's anything further we can come up with. I did speak to the officers that addressed some of the complaints that he had. And with some of the complaints they had, there was no evidence at all supporting certain things at that time in regards to mud footprints, with freshly, mud that would have demonstrated a car being removed or something like
Yeah.
that. So we are looking at the cases that he reports, and we'll continue to do so, but we can only gather as much as we can from whatever evidence that is there.
He has not filed a compliment complaint form, has he? I don't-
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
We had, like I said, we had the conversation. I'll probably be speaking with him tomorrow or Monday,
Okay.
and we'll be doing a follow-up.
And
So,
he hasn't filed one in the past, has he?
No.
Prior to,
it
okay.
was just those communications that went on with the
Okay.
town hall and the emails.
Okay, okay. Personnel Committee? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question? Did you have follow-up? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to move it along.
Yeah, right. No, I just have, because I was looking at the K-9 report, like I usually do, and I see we got open doors again. Chief, are we getting anywhere with the ability to fine or charge these people? I'm not talking about the guy like this one with the, like, somebody up against it, but I'm talking about the people who are consistently leaving their doors open, consistently not, forgetting to set their alarms. Yeah, I mean, it takes an officer off the street to go look. We got to put the K-9 in because you can't, you got an open building, and so, you're not going to send the officer in without the K-9. And I've been going through this for I don't know how long, is that we should be, when it's the same guy, once, twice, three, when you start hitting 4, 5, 6, 7 times, in a year, we should be charging them whatever the cost of that operation is, whatever the cost of the officer is, whatever the cost of the dog is. I mean, this is just carelessness. This is not something somebody breaking in.
Well, I think the ones that you're referring to, there has been a lot of corrections made with the locations, without saying places. There has been a big improvement, and we haven't been seeing the open doors. This particular one that you're referring to was a residence.
Yeah, no, I understand.
from an
That's what
alarm and-
triggered my
Right.
saying this
Well,
again.
Yeah, it has been improved because we have spoken with management at some of the buildings. The bottom line is, when we do our building checks at night, we go through the plazas, we, go through different office buildings. I mean, that's what we're out there for. When we find an open door, having the K-9 do the search, it saves officers time. It's
Yeah,
a
no, I
fairly quick
understand that.
search.
My complaint is the ones that are deliberately unconcerned and, walk out because, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I gotta get out of here, my day is over, and don't bother setting the alarms or closing the doors. This is just plain carelessness, and it costs, and I don't believe the rest of the taxpayers should have to pay because you're too lazy to take 2 minutes to check your alarms and close your doors. I'm talking about the repeaters, Chief, and we all know who they are. We've been following these reports over the years. It's the same people over and over again. And the only thing that brought it to my mind was the fact, I know that the open barn door was an exception.
I have a comment for that.
Yes.
I know in some communities, for example, I grew up in Scarsdale, New York, and my parents had a burglar alarm. And if their burglar alarm went off more than, I think it was 2 times in a certain amount of time, like in a quarter or in a 6-month period, there was a fine. It was nothing horribly excessive. It was $100 or $85. And it really made people a little uptight about their alarm going off by mistake, and it made them kind of reevaluate what they were doing with their alarms and stuff. And maybe something like that might be something that we might want to consider.
We do have an alarm law, and we do issue summonses that after, I think it's within a 6-month period if there's more than 2. So that has been done over the time. Open doors and sending the canine in, there's no law that is established for an open door at this point. Alarms, yes. Yeah.
I'm talking about the alarm. The open doors where we have, the chronic repeaters are not open doors. When, if you're going down, as I saw some of the reports, some of these places and there's a door open or whatever, that's something different. You have to look at that. I'm talking about when you go down because certain places, and we know who they are from the reports, don't set the alarms right. And, it's not an open door, it's an alarm going off. And, you're right. Look, $100 would pay for what we have to do. And they would think twice. That's all I'm saying is that I'm not talking, again, I'm talking about the chronic repeaters. And if you've looked at these reports over the years and you look at the disbursement of the canine, it costs us money. I mean, just because they can't set an alarm right. Look, my car alarm goes off and somebody complains, the police come and give me a ticket. Because you can't have your alarm ringing for a certain amount of time, which is why they changed the law, and now they go off at a certain time, because obviously nobody pays attention to those alarms anyway, and they just go off. But when you don't set your alarm right, and it's going off at 2 o'clock in the morning, your car alarm, you should get a ticket. It should be the same for these people who just don't set their alarms right.
Ira?
Yes.
Are the chronic offenders residences or businesses, or both?
They're business.
Do you know about businesses?
Again, residents, you don't have, residents is a whole different ball of wax. These are, the chronic people are businesses, and that's the problem.
Anything else?
No, I just wanted to, I saw the thing, I would go through my canine reports I use these reports.
You could maybe make up some kind of a flyer, on the second time, on the third time, tape the flyer to the door. Please make sure to lock. Please post a sign. It's very difficult for us to come here constantly.
We do notify them.
You do that?
When we go in and we have an open door, we always make notification. Because most of the time, they come out and then they secure the door. We don't usually like to leave something
Of course
that's
not.
unlocked anyway. So we make notification. If they can't come out or whatever, then so be it. We're not going to babysit, the house all night or the business all night. But most of the
You
time,
don't lock it for them?
only if we can. If we could secure a door because it's a matter of something was shimmied, or we will. But if it's a matter of that you need a key to secure it, we call and they come out. And it is an inconvenience for them to come out 2 in the morning or whenever the open door is found. But what I like about getting an open door now and then is I know the officers are out there rattling doors, so it is a little assurance, for me when I come in and I see, okay, they found open doors, and that's always a good sign.
Right, Chief, and I'll just say it again, just as you did. I'm not talking about the one guy, the open door. I'm talking about Harry, who leaves his door open every other week. That's, and you have to because it's an open door. But I'm talking about the habitual people who show up on a report, and that's the nice things about these reports, is that the habituals show up. We know exactly who they are. We know exactly what they're doing. And, as a commission, we can look at it and say, hey, we got to do something about it. Not that we want to do with the police, but, if the town board had to write an ordinance, we could go to the town board and say, hey, we need an ordinance that would allow the chief to write a ticket.
Before we go, Everett, we went through public comment, but if you came to say something?
No.
Oh, just a night out in the rain. Okay. Personnel Committee?
Well, there's a report that we should be working on, and I know Steve is sick, so hopefully we'll have a report for next time.
Okay. Can you and Steve work to get perhaps us something by the end of this month so that we can
Well,
all?
what we're hoping to do is give a sample evaluation. What we
Okay.
did was, we're working on adding some things, taking some things out, putting in some extra questions, kind of a new format for the evaluation, so it's a work in progress.
Okay. Well, as long as we can get it done quickly so that it's unfair for us to hold him to and I'm not
I'm ready and
raise it.
willing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's unfair for us as a commission to hold the chief's feet to the fire to make sure that evaluations are done for his officers. He deserves a review, and we need to get that document done and completed so that he can get his review, which he's entitled to, and
Absolutely.
which we must do.
In fact, I would prefer to have it done before the next meeting, so
That
that
would
maybe
be-
everybody could look at it,
that
so
would
that
be
we
great.
could change it before
That
we
would-
present it.
that would
People
be-
have input.
Great. That would be great. Great. Thank
Okay.
you.
May I add one thing
Yep.
to reports? On the cover sheet, usually I'll put on the second page what report is not attached. I thought I was going to have it when it was made, but we are missing the community report, you may have noticed, with the foot patrols and the special events and things like that. The officer that completes that was in training at the end of the month and then was back for a week, but then back at the training for a second part of the training. No, not that one. Yeah, that's just stats. But it's one that talks about foot patrols and what have you. So that is not included in case anybody's missing it. So it will be included next month.
Is that something that's emailable without objection?
It's just a number.
Is
so no names or anything.
that a problem for anybody so that he's not?
I don't, in my head, I don't see anything without actually looking at the report to see. I know what it's supposed to show, and it should be emailable because there's nothing on it that's, it just says how many hours, or just says this or that or the other thing. I don't know, I don't know if I want
You
people
look at
knowing
the,
where
you
we
go
are with
home,
foot
you
patrol.
go home and look at a prior report and let me know if it's okay.
Yeah, no,
We can
I don't like to
send it
make
out.
decisions without having a piece of paper in front of me, because it's just not the right way to make a decision.
Okay.
I had something to say about this.
What is that?
I just wanted to say that it looks like foot patrol's maybe up a little bit from last time. I personally notice a lot of guys out there, and I think it's really terrific. I really see people I see cops on the rail trail, up and down Main Street. I see a parked car with nobody in it, which makes me feel really good. And I really feel the presence, and I appreciate it. And I know that residents
till we get our
and
bikes.
downtown businesses really appreciate it, and it's great to see the officers on foot, out of the cars, and just, checking out what's really going on.
Wait till we get our bikes. Did I
It's
say
gonna be even
that?
better.
Parade committee. Well, it's actually not a committee. It's, what are we calling it?
The latest iteration is the parade party, but no, that's just because we like alliterations. But parade club is what we've been going with.
Yeah.
Because
Well-
committees have to be, part
Yeah,
of the
official
code.
and all of that stuff. Do you want to,
Either way.
the three of us have sat on that party. And the party has
We've met 7 times.
met 7 times, and we've issued preliminary recommendations for how parties or events and parades are to be funded and so on and so forth. We're waiting for feedback from the various entities, and then they will eventually release them to
Yeah.
the 2 various boards so they can decide how to move forward with respect to parties.
Yeah, I started writing the memo for it that kind of just outlines our thought process, basically, but it's going to go to both boards. Sally and Kitty have in their emails, they came up with the final version, I believe, but I don't know if Joe and Joe, not this Joe,
Joe and
but
Kevin, wasn't it? Weren't we? Yeah, did you were, yeah.
no, the attorneys, Joe Moriello and
Oh,
Joe
okay.
Ariel.
Okay.
More Joes than I even realized. They're going to be looking at it, but the memo can be circulated with all of you as well, so that once it's complete, all of you can look at it. The big thing was separating out parades from events, because parades often culminate in events, and how to fund all of it with the different, what the police do, what the DPW does, and who approves what, and where the money goes.
And insurance.
And insurance requirements,
yeah.
right.
Yeah. So I think it's a good, I think we've come up with some good ideas. And I think if both boards approve them, I think it'll be a workable solution, and it may go a long way in reducing some costs
Yeah.
for the police department, because we will, some of the money that will be charged will go to offset. Is offset the right word? Is that the word we can use to? Reimburse the taxpayers for.
It will be a
police
parade
work.
fee.
Yeah, it'll be a parade fee.
Yeah, there's definitely specific language that has to be used because we can't charge costs the same way.
Any questions on parade party committee?
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
You brought up walking patrol.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever walk a patrol?
Have I ever walked a patrol? No, I'm not a police officer, so I've never walked a patrol, no.
It's the most degrading 8 hours in the world.
You think?
I know it is.
Why is that?
Well, I don't think they do it for 8 hours, do they?
Yeah, and
I think
I would say that it depends on the officer also. Foot patrol, we do generally speaking, there'll be anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour per officer.
They're not doing 4 hours to go to the bathroom and 4 more hours.
No, they're usually, all of our
Oh,
officers
okay.
are in autos, and I think it goes along with the chief's policy of community policing, so it's
But when you're walking patrol, you're in a different world. Do you understand that? There's 3,000 people looking at you, and one person you're looking for. Okay? And you're talking to yourself all the time and say, well, maybe that could be it, that could be that, it could be this. And that's the reason walking patrol is not a good job. It's usually a penalty.
well,
Depends where you are.
well, I think the patrols that we do, I mean, our guys are all dispatched in cars, right? And, they will do their regular patrol route. And then, 15, 20, 30 minutes, I guess, they park the car and they get out and they walk around Main Street so that people see that there is a police presence, or they walk into the back alleys to make sure nobody's like doing something they're not supposed to be doing behind a dumpster or whatever.
I have to say, there's some officers that do not really enjoy walking foot. There are other officers that would like to do it for more than they're allowed to do based on their other obligations on their patrol. But what I like about foot patrol, and when I first started as an officer, not in our jurisdiction, it was an 8-hour shift. It was foot patrol. Winter, summer, it didn't matter. And you're right, it wasn't a lot of fun. But you do have a different set of eyes because you aren't seen as much. You do catch people doing illegal things, sometimes breaking into buildings or whatever. A big part that we like our foot patrols for is the visibility and deterrent factor. And really the other part is just the community connection. When you're in a car with the windows up and the air conditioner on, although very comfortable, you don't have that interaction. So the foot patrol does give us that interaction, which in a community like ours, I think it is
But if it was
positive.
2 hours, it'd be okay, but 8 hours.
No, 8 hours.
No,
I
No
agree.
one's doing it for that
Our guy- I
long.
don't
Yeah.
think.
No,
I don't
8
think
hours,
it's
I
8
agree with you
hours.
100% because I've done it.
No.
So
No.
I'm with you on that.
No.
I just want to say, included in foot patrol is bike patrol.
Okay.
Now, we had a fantastic bike patrol officer, and the reason I say that is because I don't live on Main Street, where most of the side streets. Where she used to come with the bike and go behind my buildings into where the woods are, and she used to, not just my place, but the whole area of the
Is
village.
she looking for you?
Huh? I never knew she did that until, one day I went out, with my companion, and I was out in the back, and I saw her going up and down. Like I said, it's more than just foot patrol. It's also bike patrol. And that's a very good thing, because that, that's a lot better than a car. It can get into places where the cars can't go, and it's a great deterrent.
It's not good for high-speed chases,
Can Ellen
though.
say
Well,
something?
it's not meant for that, because she sees something, she called in.
Ellen
She
say
got the
something?
microphone, she would call in, yeah.
I just feel sorry for a man that's got to walk 8 hours.
Yeah.
Well, he's not walking 8 hours.
Unless he's been really
and,
good.
yeah, and I don't even think they walk 4 hours, do they? No, it's,
No.
yeah, because they
I said
all
if
are
we had the
assigned
report, it was
autos.
showable.
and,
I
yeah.
could show you the report, you could see the hours.
As long as the subject has been brought up,
Foot patrols?
foot patrols. I would like to know what hours of the day foot patrols go on.
It's a mix. We have no set hours on it, simply because of the, you don't want there to be a set time. Generally speaking, you're gonna see an officer out there anywhere between 10 and 2, because that's kind of like after they get going, doing some of the stuff, paperwork they have to do, then they'll try to get out. But sometimes you'll see them out earlier, closer to 3 o'clock. Shift changes at 3 o'clock, so then you'll have a little downtime, potentially to maybe 3:30, 4, and then you'll see them walk. Then, nighttime, they walk also.
Now, could you elaborate on that? Because
For nighttime?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because.
Every shift is supposed to walk, whether you're a night tour or a day
Yeah.
tour. They walk Main Street, they walk the rail trails, they walk behind buildings. Sometimes they'll do the plazas, depending on what time of the day that one is. That's usually during the day, more so than night. Nighttime, they do security checks, but they drive with the car, they'll get out there, walk, but that doesn't really count as a foot patrol. That's more of a security check. But it varies. If it's quiet and the sergeant does not hear an officer calling out, they're supposed to call out on their own. But there's times where they're like, no, we don't really feel like walking tonight. The sergeant will see that nothing's going on and they're driving around. Somebody take foot patrol for a half hour or whatever.
So at some point, there was an effort to have foot patrols in the neighborhoods off of Main Street, patrolling to deal with moving noise. And
That wasn't necessarily, well, some foot patrols will do that, but we don't have them walk the side streets too much. I think what you're referring to is about 3 years ago, I assigned an officer to be stationed in the downtown area on the corridor streets to the college and apartments. We would assign him to basically just walk and be in those areas. Even if he's in his car, he patrols those streets. That we don't really do very much anymore because of manpower issues. But we still keep the visible cars in the corridors.
I'm not speaking just for myself now. There are a number of members of the community who will be working together to come forward, this is obviously in the village, and to request that other action be taken. We've just started the starting of meeting. So, but our intention is that something can be worked out so that by the time school starts in the middle of August, by the time students come back, there is some kind of protection for the residents. The noise problem at night has gotten worse. It's simply not practical to call in noise complaints because, first of all, I'm already awake at 3 in the morning. I certainly don't want to add to that by calling in. And I'm saying it's not only me. And by the time somebody comes, under the best of circumstances, the noise has moved on. So for these kinds of quality of life issues, for the police to be reactive rather than proactive is not serving our community effectively.
I believe what I'd like to start doing again, and now we're in the process of, we've been down 3 officers for the majority of the year, including the end of last year. What I'd like to start doing is we're in the process of hiring 2 full-timers back. Once they're up and running again, hopefully within anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, where they'll be on their own, filling their own tours, I can then start using the part-time officers to position them again on the village streets for the Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights like we were doing.
It's not just Thursdays and Friday night and Saturday nights. That's part of the reason why the problem is as bad as it is. And it's no longer, it used to be, you know, they started going down at 11:30, and by 2:30, most of the noise was kind of gone. You'd still have stragglers. We're hearing it now at 5 o'clock in the morning. So from 11:30, I wasn't going to do this tonight because I didn't want to get myself upset. But starting at 11:30 at night, and it is constant, and I think the thing that is offending so many of us the most is that clearly some number, possibly even a large number of these people are underage, and this needs to be treated like, not as a noise issue. This needs to be treated, and we talked about this when we were trying to do the noise ordinance. This needs to be treated as what it is, which is drunken disorderly behavior and underage drinking. And I don't know, maybe when we start getting together, we can come up with some clever ideas. I don't know. But I will tell you that this is a huge issue for too many people. And to the extent that the judges need to be involved in this, then we really need community action on this.
And I wanted to make a comment to you on that. I agree with you. I live on North Chestnut, and sometimes
You're
it's
on my list to call.
very peaceful, and other times it's difficult. And I talked to Ariana about this and several other people as well. We've met about this before. And we did come up with an idea that we have not acted on, and perhaps people in your group might want to work on this.
Wait, let me reaffirm. Our group is only just starting, and unless you say that it's not appropriate, we're just getting started. You are one of the people whom we're hoping to
Oh, good.
be.
So my comment was about something that we had thought about that hasn't been acted on yet, which was getting a community group together to work on some type of a newsletter to give to the landlords, and I've spoken to the landlord groups about this as well, and getting the landlords, I mean, from my opinion, for the most part, are all nice people that want to work with the community, that want to work with the students, that want quiet and nice things, and half of us live in the middle of the village, so we have to hear it anyway. But working together to communicate to the students that this is how we live in New Paltz, and when we walk out at night, we try not to scream, or whatever, and giving them some suggestions about how to live in a neighborhood, because for so many of these young people, this is their first time away from home, and it's all new. And listen, I was in college once too, so I do understand
With
it.
all due respect, and I think we need to approach this from any angle anybody can think of. So this is certainly not a yeah, but. The practical reality is that house parties or people hanging out at a house, as unpleasant as that is, are much easier to deal with, because then you call it in as a noise issue or a drunken disorderly issue or whatever, and it's a fixed place. But as I know you know, it's the kids who are walking up the streets yelling at the top of their lungs. Sometimes you really can't tell if someone's hurt, if someone's in
I
trouble.
know, you get worried.
Exactly.
I get worried sometimes,
And then
too.
you try and go back to sleep, and there are more again.
Well, I hope
think
your
that's-
group, when you get your group together, that part of the process is to also include the bar, perhaps bar owners in the community, because it could be as simple as them making sure that they post a sign on the exits of their doors, be respectful of our neighbors as you leave, if it's, late at night. I mean, so,
As I said,
I don't want to.
We're only just.
Yeah, so I'm just throwing it out to make sure that you.
May I ask you a question, please?
Sure.
We have a meeting on the 24th. part
The
of
24th of June.
June.
Who's we? Here?
Well, Randall, the chief, myself, and somebody else has to do with Park Point. At that point, in my presentation of our needs, was going to be something along what you say. Now, I mean, think about it, because I thought about it because I've heard you talk about this more. I just want to know if it's okay if I mention that it has gotten so bad now that they're looking to try to combat it, which is going to be in the future. But I don't want to say anything without your permission.
No, and, you know, again, I think the reason that I'm, as I said, that I was hesitant to even start now is because what some of us have thought is what we the sort of organizing principle, if you will,
Yeah.
was that we would try and get a sort of a starter group from all of the streets, or as many of the streets as possible.
And I just want to use
No, I
what you're
appreciate
saying
that.
as a
That are-
backup to my figures.
Let me
that's
just
all.
say,
Yeah.
that are impacted with the idea that they would then be bringing in other people on those streets. So that the village board, the town board, the police commission, the college, within, will see that this is not a half dozen people who are cranky because there's noise. These are issues with defecation and all that stuff. So by the 24th, we may actually have gotten far enough to do that, and then what I would like to do is give you contact information, even if that.
Or you can come down to the meeting and during
Yeah.
public input.
Say the same
Say
thing.
the same thing you're
Yeah.
saying now, which will just verify what the commission is saying.
But I
And
don't-
which makes a perfect segue into,
But
To
let
your
me
next-
just wait,
yeah.
I'm sorry, let me just get
Park
clear about
Point is the
this.
next topic.
I don't think that we would want to be drawn into the Park Point issue.
well, it's not a function of being drawn into a Park Point issue. The point of the matter is the simple fact that in order to, if you increase the number of students who are now living in the community,
700 more
you're,
people than you.
there is probably an exponential increase in activity in the area in which you live, and you happen to live on Plattekill, which is between the bar and the college.
Right.
So I think the point Ira is trying to make is that as we sit down with the planning board to talk about the needs that the chief has indicated he would need should that facility be added to our community, these are the types of things that are going to have a megaphone applied to them. If they're loud now, they're going to be louder.
Exactly.
And he's going to need additional bodies in order to help corral the problems that exist, and that might be multiplied and magnified. So it's not a function
So what
of...
you're saying is that we would be coming to you saying, the noise is a problem.
This is what you did.
Anything that makes the noise worse, makes the problem worse. We don't have an opinion about Park Point, we're here about
Exactly.
noise.
And
Right.
their financial impact statement takes
That's
into
fine.
consideration nothing. And that's why I was going to bring it up in my calculations of
quality
what
of
we
living.
need. Huh?
Yeah.
And quality of living.
And that's
Well,
what
yeah, well,
it's...
I'm just saying, I was going to bring it up because, you know, as the commission, we're worried about the needs of the police department to handle the
Yeah.
community properly,
Right.
which is not what Park Point is doing.
Right.
And what you're coming here now, which is some of the things, because I went through the, well, when we get into Park Point,
Well, it's a perfect segue, and
Right. That's actually next on our
and
list.
quickly on the agenda, there is Park Point. Ira, the chief, and I plan to meet sometime next week in preparation for a presentation that we will be making to the planning board with the financial calculations that we have with respect to the cost to the department. For those who weren't in our meeting, the commission gave Ira and I the authority to move ahead with these numbers without having to keep coming back to you guys because time was of the essence. So Ira and I have been working on those figures. Ira mostly. I've been doing a lot of lip gum flapping about it and coming, ideas. So we will be meeting on the 24th with the planning board to present our figures officially and to field any questions that the planning board might have with respect to the numbers that we have the chief's estimation as to why he might need the officers that he has suggested that we require, and any other issues that may come up as it relates to the department. So that's all there is on
well,
Park Point. Do you-
Park Point has released
The
a
FEIS.
report, huh?
The
Not the FEIS, their report of impact it's an impact report of how much the college is going to affect it, how it's going to affect traffic, and how much police they need and everything else. And I read that report, and obviously the only part of that report I read was what they were talking about with the police department. And I looked at the figures, and I guess they live in Disneyland. No, but I understand where they got their figures, because, I mean, we got the same thing. It's like, thankful we have people like Paul, who, when the planning board says, well, nobody would talk to us, knew this wasn't true. They just never came to us. And I told everybody that point 5, when Randall set up the emergency committee for all the emergency services, invited Park Point to come down and give us their input and what they thought, they refused. They said it wasn't necessary, they're dealing with the planning board, and that's who we're going to deal with. So we're doing our own, and we're coming up with our stuff. When you look at that report, I forget what it was called, it was
The fiscal impact analysis.
yeah, something like that. And it wasn't the FEIS. 'cause,
Right.
I haven't looked at the FEIS. Huh?
It's the appendix.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
it's specifically the fiscal
Ariana has it
portion.
right.
Yeah, okay. And we haven't seen the FEIS because they haven't done anything with it. I mean, it's available. I mean, I could go down to the
But the
council.
heart of it is the document you have.
Right, and you look at those, and obviously, it's a very interesting document in the sense that, and I only reviewed the police department, like, I'm not gonna speak about the other things that bothered me about that report because it's not within our domain. But it's like asking the guy who's building Park Point, what do you think we need? They
Right.
call it an independent survey, but an independent survey has to be able to get information. They don't know how to get information. They don't know how our system works. It took me alone, just doing what I'm doing, over a week to find the information I need, and that was going through every single piece of paper. So, and if you look at the figures, you can see what it did. And that's why this is so important, because I've got figures in there that I'm saying, this is what we need. You're putting 700 more people into this community. Don't tell me there's not going to be any impact. I mean, you can say it. And unfortunately, again, we're stuck, and I make this very clear to people, we're stuck for the IDA. I mean, if the IDA says we're giving it to you, there's not a bloody thing we can do about it. And as I said to somebody, in terms of the thing, and I used a couple of examples, we have a nice pilot program. That's not saying 3 years from now the college decides that we're not full, we want to change the IDA, we get even less money, because they have the ability to do that. And that's where the problem is coming in. So they're having a meeting on the 24th. We've been invited to present our figures. I gave Randall my latest update, which numbers don't change, but I've added a couple of things that I deliberately left out. I mean, I can't spend days and weeks, picking up every $100, every $200. If we get what we're asking for, we're 90% okay. Because there are ways that if we have to,
And what's the exact figure that you're asking for at this point?
I don't have it.
Is it like,
I didn't bring it with me.
is it like 15 million?
It's in the same range that we have with the other figures. I mean, it's not,
the
it's
same
not.
thing, yeah. I don't have it with me, so I don't like to spout figures off, but, like I said about the thing, without having that piece of paper in front of me, because then it winds up in the newspaper, as I said, 30,000.
I wired over to the governor's office already.
Probably.
Okay.
I think
I
though.
thought you were bringing that up, you should.
In terms of the IDA, I do think that we have an influence over their decision. It's been in the papers. They said that they were going to be basing their decision on what the town planning board and the town board says to them about what they think about the pilot. So I think in terms of it's up to them. Yeah, the decision is totally theirs, but we absolutely should be writing them letters if we so choose as
Well, I'm just saying,
individuals.
yeah.
As a police commission, you can do it, or certainly be, lobbying our town board members to really be active
Well,
on
that's
this.
why we're going to
So
the
that's-
planning board, because that's where it sits right now.
Yeah.
The town board has turned it over to the planning board. The planning board is discussing it. I happened to go to a meeting because I saw something from, Park Point on it.
Right.
The FEIS. Obviously, they didn't have a meeting on it. They had some kind of special session, which doesn't go to the public or whatever. But and I'm sitting there and I'm listening, they were discussing, they were asking reasonable questions, but they're dealing with information that they don't have.
Right.
They don't have emergency services. They don't have a traffic report. I mean, you can't tell me you're gonna have 700 people and not have traffic. I mean, well, this stuff doesn't make sense.
Right.
And like I said, the thing that concerns me now, particularly about the figures that they submitted, was, I could be wrong, please, and don't tell me this because I only heard this, that Woodland Ponds is looking for an adjustment to the pilot program. There may not be, this is just rumor. But the point is, if they get an adjustment, because the police department
Don't
has
spread
received-
rumors.
Huh?
Don't spread rumors.
I'm not I specifically said, I haven't heard, this came from the discussions that were at this table by people. And the point was, if they get an adjustment to the pilot now, and this is what bothers me about pilot programs and adjustments, the police department never sees the money it's supposed to get. Because we don't see that money for 2 more years.
Well, that's why I think what we're, and I said when we sat informally with the planning board, the commission's function is to make sure that our police department has what it needs. It is not our, and you all can disagree with me, and if you direct me to do otherwise, that's fine. But I believe that the commission's role is to just make sure that the department has what it needs, that we advocate for the department, and that we make the policymakers aware of what their actions are doing, and for us to step back and let them deliberate based on the information
Absolutely.
that we give them. As a private citizen, I might have a different opinion, but as a appointed official, or whatever you want to call it, for the police department, I just want to make sure the chief has the dollars and the manpower and the equipment that he needs if he thinks, using his judgment as a police officer, that this is what he's going to need. And if that's what he says he's going to need, I'm not going to dispute it, and I'm going to tell you this is what it is, and that's what he says, and he's the police officer, and that's the end of it.
And this is exactly what I said to the powers that be on Park
Right.
Point. But they said to me, well, you guys are against it, we need this, and I said, excuse me, we're not for or against it. This was at that meeting. I told you, we're not for or against it.
Right.
This is for the people to decide. The people don't like, you've got a problem with pilot programs in this town, and it's up to the people. They either like it or they don't like it. What this police commission is doing is to make sure that our police department has the necessary funds to do its job properly, so that no resident is in danger because we're short-staffed. And that's exactly what I told them. They didn't like that, to hear that. But that's the truth. We're not, we don't have a concern one way or another. I mean, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, there are other people who have, private citizens, but, as me,
Okay. Let's try and move on here. We're down to technology.
Ira and I are going to meet this month soon.
Okay,
As you know,
so you're going to
for
have
2
July,
weeks.
you got July is your deadline, right?
Well,
for
July
getting
is our
this-
deadline to have a meeting for strategic planning. We need to develop a protocol for assessing what the department needs,
Okay. Well,
what they have.
Okay, well, make sure that as you have that assessment, that the police department is included in that.
Well, they have
in
to
that
be
meeting.
included, so, because we can't do without them.
what Bruce and I are going to do is sit down and go over what we think they should have. If Bruce has some technical stuff and some, hardware stuff, and then whatever, I have what I want. We're going to sit down, come up with a general plan, sit down with the chief and say, look, this is what we came up with that we would like to see. What do you want to see? Because there are certain things that the chief needs, or he may like. I mean, he just didn't want to spend the money, but now he's spending the money, so he might as well get what he likes.
Well, yeah, I think we should, and once you guys come up with whatever it is you think you need, I think our next step should be to make a formal request to the town to allocate the money to do
Send out an
what
RFP.
needs, to do what needs to be done, so that it meets everybody's needs.
But it is going to take a little bit of time and some research, because it's a major expenditure, first of all, and it also will impact the way the department runs for a while, transition. I mean, I don't want to have anyone underestimate what I feel will be necessary in terms of time for developing
No,
a major project.
I understand, but you also have to understand that right now, all of our terms are limited, so we
Yeah.
need to get it,
No, we're on it.
you know, I may not be here, you may not be here, Amy, you know, so we've been, yeah, you may not be, so we have been on this gerbil wheel for 3 or 4 years, and I don't want us reinventing the wheel. I want it, or I would like to have it done as quickly as humanly possible so that we can make recommendations and perhaps make it part of any budget request that we need to come up with that usually needs to be done by November. Is that correct? So ideally, if we could, we start doing that in September, right?
Usually
Budget.
now.
Usually now.
Yeah.
Susan says she's starting to
So-
work on the budget now.
So if we can sort of get it moved
We
along,
can.
that would be
I
great.
think after Ira and I meet, we'll have a better idea of the scope of
Okay.
what needs to be done, and
So we're looking at the software program, but we're also looking at maybe getting the IT person involved,
absolutely.
because
Who?
the IT, or IT
Yeah.
personnel.
Well, that's when we sit down with you.
Yes,
you know,
because we need to look
We want to
at
discuss
revamping
overall, you
everything,
know, Bruce and I will discuss
Yeah.
overall, you know, because like you said, I'll discuss with Bruce what I'm looking for in order to have the taxpayers get the best information. Obviously, what's going on now shows that if we, you know, how important this information needs to be culled.
Well, the other thing to, and I'll throw this out there, but while you're digging and beating the bushes, you might want to, with the chief's permission, talk to the detectives department. Since we're talking about software, we may as well get them software that they need so they
Yes.
can better manage
Yeah.
their cases. So if we're going to swing this bat at the ball, we may as well hit it out of the park.
Well, that's part of the programs they have now, so that would
Okay.
be part of our discussion, you know, the gun room, the evidence room, and all the stuff that the special programs that the detectives use.
Yeah.
I would like to poll everybody involved in using those applications as to
Absolutely.
what they feel the deficiencies are, what they would like to see
Very
in
good
terms
idea.
of having a better system to work with. Try to do some cost-benefit analysis, see what's available. We'll need to rely on you. Did you just come back from a
No,
meeting?
I'll be going to that.
In
conference.
Orlando.
Yep, that'll be the end of July.
And will you have the opportunity to meet with vendors?
Yes.
And you be
And
able to
what I
bring
want
back
to work
stuff?
out is I want to try to get them to be able to either do a webinar type of setup
Yeah.
to show us a demo or come to us. I know a lot of times they'll come right out here.
That'd be the best thing.
Yeah.
I think we ought to send the commissioner with to Orlando.
Well, actually, and while you're doing that, I also think it would be a good idea if perhaps we look to see if there are any grants that would enable us to kick in some money to offset costs to taxpayers. So
These companies
as you,
sometimes actually have some of that information.
I'm sure
for
they
it.
do.
You have a grant writer
So-
who could check into that, right, Chief?
No, but we do our own, if we.
I know, because we sent somebody to grant school.
That was Sergeant Lapp. He's,
He's gone, I didn't remember who it was, that's
Yeah,
why I
that was
asking.
many years ago, yeah.
But if there are grants from the people who provide it, we should certainly look to take advantage
Absolutely.
of those. Everett, did you have a question?
Yes, but when you're starting to get everything together, one of the main things, though, everything should be together with the police department and housing and all, is sewage. That's the main thing we should fight with everything from the beginning, because if you put 700 extra people
Oh,
on,
you're talking about Park Point, we were
Yeah.
talking
Oh,
about
okay.
that, that's why you
Okay.
kind of threw us
Yeah,
off what you were
okay.
talking about.
You're back, okay, hold on, let me recalibrate.
throw them
Park-
together.
Rewind.
Rewind.
And all this is a great expense. I said some of these classes in college, I didn't sleep through all of them, so. Once in a while I woke up, from being out the night before. But all this stuff is not being thought of.
Well, they are putting in, I will tell you that the part of their plan that I've read indicates that they are putting in sewer and water treatment and sewer filtration, right? Is that?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's.
Because we are under, right now, we don't have enough in this town, in this village. That has to be a major thing. But money talks and S walks.
Yeah.
Because somebody,
Well, I think what I saw in the paper...
Everybody should be together.
Yeah, what I saw in the paper was that I thought it was a $4.1 million sewer and water treatment facility.
$4
that
million
was-
is nothing.
was for that. Well, see, I'm not an engineer, so that's above my
It's
pay
two
grade.
Pepsi-Colas in the bucket.
Which
They
is-
have
which is
published
nothing.
factors that they think it may not be enough. They published that report. They have to look into it, and they did promise it. And, well, we have to look at the capacities, because maybe we'll do sewer and not water. This is the report that they published. And if you look at the FEIS, or, I didn't look at it, but I was at that meeting, that's why I'm spouting off what I'm spouting off. Every one of these things that they say they're going to do says they may do it.
Yeah.
Or maybe we'll do this.
Yeah.
Or possibly we'll do this. And that was
Right.
one of the points that the planning board brought up. Said, you say maybe, and then you turn around and say no. What are we going to do?
Yeah. Okay, so we're done with, Bruce, are you done with technology?
And we'll just ask for an extension when July comes anyway.
Sounds like a government thing. Commission file organization. We three just need to figure it out, and I've asked Rosanna, who is the town clerk, when we figure out when we're going to sit down to meet to go over archiving and setting up the files so that they're orderly and they're not just like thrown in there. She's going to work with us for a little bit to talk about what needs to be stored, and perhaps what she can put back there in archives and things like that. So when we figure out when the three of us can sit down to go through it, you're necessary, Ira, because you have the most history out of.
Yeah, I know. My
All of
house
us.
is getting to look like a
Yeah.
college.
Yeah, so we just need to come together and figure out what time. And I know that you mentioned that Fridays were best for you, so like right after, like afternoon
Yeah.
or something. So maybe, we could get a pizza and come in here and then just roll up the sleeves and start plowing through some of this and getting it organized.
You know what I was just thinking just now, Randall, about what you're talking about?
I know you're going to tell me.
Well, I just didn't know if you knew what I was thinking.
No, don't know what you're thinking.
I wonder if it is appropriate for us to look at digitally converting the files so that we have a searchable database.
Yeah.
I did that when I was in the liquor industry. I was the first group to do that because we had to, by state liquor authority, keep the receipts and everything else. And you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pieces of paper. And we digitally put it up. I mean, this was a brand new thing that we did, that was done at the time. We got the permission from the SLA, and all their requirement was that you had to be able to push a button to get it out. But that was before you could do this kind of button. And I'm just wondering if we shouldn't
Digitally.
my teeth are loose, what can I tell
Got
you?
it.
Store all of this stuff so that we could, somebody who wants, let's say we want to go in and say, let's say we want to get foot reports. You type in foot reports, it will digitally bring up every foot report for what we've stored in there from time immemorial that we've got it. We don't need all kinds of file space. It's a protected system.
Well,
I'm just
why
thinking-
don't
I'm
you,
just
well,
thinking
why
about it.
don't,
No, I don't want to do it.
why
It's
don't
like
you,
my-
why don't you check with Rosanna and ask her if that's something that we can do based on availability for foilability and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I don't have an answer for you, but if you, ask Rosanna and she might check into it for you.
Several years
Foilability
back,
comes to
I
us.
know
The
they had-
foilability comes to us, so if we can work the system, we're the ones that have to answer, has to answer
Has
to
to go.
Roseanne the FOIL request. If somebody
Right.
put a FOIL request in to the chief or to Roseanne, it's supposed to come to us for approval.
No.
As to whether it's legal, not approval, but whether it's legal or not, or whether we want to release that information. I mean, the chief goes to the,
It doesn't, the
supervisor.
commission generally doesn't approve the release. I mean, if
The
it's,
commi- the-
if it has to do with your records here, then yeah, the FOIA request would go to
right,
you.
now, that's what I
That's
meant.
what you're
Yeah,
referring to.
okay.
That's what I meant.
But you were saying something
Yeah,
else.
several years back, there was a grant that the town received in regards to doing just that with dead storage files. And
I'll check with
Norma was
Roseanne.
here, if you remember Norma Saplicki. She was here and she was going through dead storage and, doing just that and disposing of paperwork, but digitally filing it. There may be another grant that the town can even look at, because there's more dead storage that needs to be done, and you guys can be maybe incorporated into that to
Get rid of all
everything.
that dead storage that we
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
Yeah.
And keep the record. Now, I'll speak to Rosanna tomorrow, and I'll send you an email,
Okay, okay,
because I have to be here tomorrow to take care of some stuff.
okay. Moving on to old business. Quickly, PBA lieutenant contract update. There is no
No
update.
update.
I know that Lucchese did run into the supervisor yesterday, I believe, and briefly spoke. She had to sign a document for one of the part-time officers that were hired. And Lucchese, as a joke, said, well, this is the lieutenant's contract.
No.
But anyway, there's, she said, within, maybe after the next town board meeting, they'll be calling him in to discuss it. It's been 10 months. Maybe we're on 11 now, 10.
Just say a year.
I don't want to say a year, but yeah, we're going on a year without a lieutenant. And again, the problem that I see with this whole delay is that there has been no conversation at all. We tell a man that he's getting a position. We say that you're going to negotiate the contract first. There hasn't even been a phone call to him to say, hey, we want to meet with you. Nothing. For all we know, this could have been resolved 8 months ago, if they at least speak to him. Maybe not, but this delay is just, as you know, we're starting the 16th, we're putting in a temporary detective to help out with the caseload, so Lucchese, who is now second in command, can assist with some of the administrative paperwork. So he's just starting to get that going, which has been very helpful. So we have to still operate, we have to still function and accomplish our department goals and community safety issues and everything else that comes with our operations. So that's where we are. I'm hoping that the board does reach out for him, and all I can ask from the commission is keep probing a little bit just to...
Well, I suggested to him in our meeting that perhaps he should
Yes.
initiate and not
Well, he
wait
did, and he
for
did speak with the
yeah,
supervisor,
yeah.
so I'm hoping that did get something started.
Yeah.
There'll be more conversation.
Yeah,
But I agree with you.
yeah. Interview procedure, we hit a bump in the road with our first one in May, and it was eye-opening. And then we had a meeting in June, and the interview procedure, I think, went pretty
Very well.
no
problem.
And I think it worked fine, and I think there was some eye-opening on both ends, and I think I don't think we were doing a good job of communicating with each other, and I think we've to some degree moved beyond that, because I think when we sat down in June, we asked questions about the interviews that we did in May, and when we said, oh, you didn't think you could go through and cull people that you didn't think were worthy to sit at the table, they were like, no, we thought you wanted to see everybody. So I think we've gotten
Straighten out
over
the
that, yeah.
miscommunication.
And, yeah, so I think that process may have worked itself out, so that ultimately, when we are in fact interviewing, we're actually looking at people that you actually want to hire. So you've already passed judgment on them, and we're just saying, these are my 4 top eggs, and I'll be happy with any one of them. So, I mean, I think we've sort of fixed that
Yes.
and smoothed it out. So I'm happy. I don't know about
Yes,
the
yep, I
chief.
think it was like you said, there's clarification in the understanding of what we need to do with the interview process.
Well, let me perhaps make you even happier, because we're going to go down to this next one, the discipline notification procedure. And my suggestion to you is this. You figure out a method by which you can report to us that would involve a piece of paper or a slip of paper, and give it to us to look at, and we'll work from there. All right?
Very good.
Fine?
Yeah, no, that's cool with me.
All right. Now, the stumbling block, the chief's monthly report preparation, and I'm not even going to go into it.
I'm not gonna
but
say-
I'm gonna,
I
I'm
made
going,
my
I'm
comments.
going to let
But who?
you,
Who?
the chief, and Bruce work that out while you're talking about computer and technology, so that we can figure out a way to perhaps get you what you want. Although I do remember that part of our conversation was, these are not emailed because of the sensitivity of the information that's contained in these monthly reports, which is the sticky wicket in all of the things. But I also understand that it's a pain in the tuchus to have to like pull this together and
Well, that's because of the
photocopy.
computer program, and we're not talking a lot. I mean, if the computer programs were working the way they should work, I mean, how long does it take, I'm a chief financial officer for a you had to send reports to all around the world. You pushed a button on the computer, and the computer made the copies, but you have to have the input. And I understand it. The problem is, and it's a problem with the reports, which I have been complaining about ever since I sat on the commission. Problem with the reports aren't done automatically. You sit there and you do an Excel report, and the guy, like you saw, we discussed, he punches a zero, which changes the whole fact, or he punches something that's not right, or he puts the wrong information in. These reports should be generated electronically.
Well,
And if they're
when you
generated
guys-
electronically, you just push the button on the printer that says print 3 copies of this or 5 copies of this, and that's all you need.
Well, once you guys figure out with the chief this newfangled
Your thing.
software system, perhaps, I mean, it's going to have multiple applications. I mean, because as we sit and think about the Park Point, we now see how difficult it is for us to get the information configured in a way that we
Absolutely
need
could.
it. So,
The chief put on a detective to help, okay? We get a detective's report. The problem is, because of the way the computer system is, it's only half a report.
yeah.
It tells what they worked on, and I've asked a question, and I can't be told, and I disagree with that, but how many cases are open? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of work there, but if they've all been resolved and there's only 3 cases open,
Doesn't this report tell you how many
No,
cases
because
are open?
it doesn't. Remember, we've gone through this because of the carryover in 1 month and the next month.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
remember I said to you, Chief, well, why can't the guy just go to the folder and count his open folders? But this is all part of stuff that, when we have a decent computer system, that will relieve all of this extra, this is extraneous work, and this is what we shouldn't have. We have, in this day and age of computers and stuff, we should be able to get any report we want. How many foot patrols we had down on whatever that street is that goes from the bar to the college? I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Plattekill.
Plattekill. We should be able to get this kind of information, and it shouldn't be a major problem.
And hopefully it'll cut down on the paper generation, so
Absolutely.
that if you want to report, if somebody's interested in foot patrols, you can call for it, and
See, that
it
stuff
could
you
be-
can get. Like, if you want foot patrols on Plattekill Avenue, you can
Well,
search
it's
that.
different, Chief. I want all the reports, because I go through them all.
But the thing is, the breakdown that you want is what we can't do. You know,
Right.
How many was on a 3 to 11 shift?
That should be, right.
That, it just can't do. Just
That
like
should
the,
be- that
most
should-
of these
that should be-
reports
yeah.
that you want, that,
Yeah.
and one of the suggestions
It's
that I
the
would.
granular data.
Yeah,
That's-
one of the
that's-
suggestions I would give is also, we're not unique. We're not the only police department in the country. I think it might be important for you, even, and I talked about this, maybe visiting some other local police departments, Poughkeepsie or Kingston or Saugerties, and look at what they have and what reports they generate and what their systems are capable of doing. And if that's something that you're looking for, then you're not reinventing the wheel either.
Right.
We're
Well,
using
no,
something
I
else.
have no problem in doing that, but I would want to go to a place that has a commission. Like, for example, Highland doesn't have a commission. The supervisor is the police commissioner. And he probably, as a supervisor, who knows what he gets. Because as a commission, we have a responsibility oversight, to review all of this stuff, to make sure it's in order. I mean, how many times in the past, did I open my mouth wrongly because the gas reports were wrong, and it showed a big deviation. And when you're talking about, at that time, the gas was $1.25, Now it's $4.50 or whatever it is. I mean, that's not what the chief pays, so, I'm just saying what it went on. And these are the things that we need to, look, I can't work, we should have these reports, a week in advance, hopefully. I mean, if it's possible. I understand that sometimes it's not. But, I mean, I don't know about any of the other members, but I sit down and I go over every one of these reports because I need to know when I'm sitting here, or I need to know if we have a special meeting, if we're going to hire people. I need to know what's going on, or I don't feel I can do my job properly. But that's me.
I would personally request, if possible, that we could get the reports at least 3 or 4 days in advance.
Usually I've been doing that. This week it was unique because we had so many people that complete the reports in training. And then I was actually away on Tuesday and Wednesday with training, but and Monday I wasn't in. But usually you would have it the Monday morning is
Right.
when I get it done, because the Friday before is when all the reports are supposed to be turned in to me. And depending on what day of the month your meeting is also, because we have to wait till the end of the month to calculate all the numbers. So then after that, then if some of the guys are on past days, they're off
Right.
2 days, then they come in on a third day. So again, the reason why I don't have the community policing report is that particular officer was at training, and then he was back for a week, but then that was when the end of the month came, and then he was out of training again. So he's just coming back to work after that. But
Okay.
yeah, but I do continue to work on it. And the only thing I would request is that the commissioners do come in and pick them up.
Pick 'em up.
I mean-
Because I was doing that, and they were getting picked up right before the meeting.
Well,
By
that's-
several.
No, I mean,
commissioners, not now with you.
I was picking mine up like the day it was out, and we just heard about this report like later in the day yesterday.
Yeah.
And just, due to my own business schedule and my personal schedule, I couldn't even pick mine up this time.
I agree with you there, Chief, to pick up, I mean, if they're not ready, it's one thing, but if they're ready, to pick them up the day before, you don't get a chance to read them.
Yeah.
Then I can understand
You're
why.
not reading them anyway, which is not a
Huh?
good thing.
No, because I
People
want
who
to,
don't
I
pick them up
I really
generally
do want to
the
read
day
it.
of
I was actually
aren't
at
reading
training.
them
That's what I'm saying, so I mean, obviously, they don't want
Copies
reports
and
because they
pack
don't
them
need
up
them.
for me. And then from my phone, I sent everybody a message saying they were ready to be picked up, to give you a little bit of time. But it was a rough time this month.
Anything on the tip line?
The tip
I
line,
know Rob
we
was working
spoke-
on that, but
Well-
he was looking into it. I don't know. I mean, if you don't have anything, you don't.
Just basically the cost, is it worth it? I know we're in Kingston, although they get a lot of tips, a lot of them are just unfounded. They're finding it more work than it's really worth, because it's so easy just to go online and send the tip line. So they're doing a lot of work, and a lot of manpower is being put into it without really solving anything.
Well,
One of
is
the
there-
things
is-
that we'd like to push, and Casey and I were talking about it, if we were to advertise and push out the fact, if you want to stay anonymous and call in, if you press star 67, your number's not going to show up on our caller ID, and there's no way of tracking it, and you can leave the voice recording on our tip line phone. And if we advertise that to say, please be anonymous if that's how you choose, dial star 67, it blocks your number, and
Has there been an initiative to get the word about that out there?
no, we were actually just talking about this when I saw it back on here.
You writing that, Mike? Do you want to be anonymous?
Be anonymous, hit star
Dial
67.
star
Could
67.
you do like
We like
You
the
need to
ability-
leave an anonymous tip to the police
And we want to
department.
encourage people to do
Yeah,
that.
because the concern that was brought up a couple of years ago, a couple of weeks,
Star
Star
67.
67 and then
The
dial,
number.
I believe.
and then you won't have to leave your birthday.
Unless you have a private,
Address and phone number, just
Your birthday.
if you have a blocked number already through your phone service, you don't have to do anything. 'Cause
No,
it's
they
gonna
could-
it'll show up private, it'll show up restricted. That's how it'll show up on our phones. Some police departments, you can't do that. They'll say, it does not accept private numbers. We would never do that, because if you're calling for an emergency, I don't want you to have to hang up
and it
and,
doesn't even show
Unlisted or
what's the address.
private?
no.
If it's private.
If it's private, all you get
Because
is private.
unlisted
Sometimes you'll
means
get the
you're
town,
not-
depending on
Oh,
how
so
their
it's-
block is.
okay.
So sometimes it might say
Like if you call
Highland
me,
or
show up as
Poughkeepsie, or
unknown
depending
number
what,
or
the
private
number,
If I called
it'll
you from
say
my house.
private. So we don't have any way of calling you back. We like the ability to be able to call you back in case we have follow-up questions, but we understand that there are some people that just want to be anonymous, and if that's the case, we'd rather get the information than to worry about not being able to speak to you, so
Well,
any
your,
little bit helps.
your recording could also say, well, you get the word out, but in the recording, you've reached the New Paltz Police Department's tip line.
Yep.
Please leave us your tip. If you'd like to leave your phone number, please add that too, but it's not a requirement, you know what I mean? So that they can.
We can add that. I know
get
it
to
says
do
it's a
it.
tip line, but it's
Yeah.
the language in it.
So
And then that way, if they do want to be anonymous, but do want to say, well, I don't mind if you're, because it's, then they have the option to do it if they so choose.
So what do
Okay.
you plan to do? Put a series of ads in the paper or cable
We have the
access?
reporter
or-
right here.
No,
That,
I know
a
that.
website,
And
maybe the
we're-
town's
we're-
website, the
we're-
village
How
website.
about just generating a public service announcement that
Yeah.
maybe the paper will print once or twice and that way it'll reach.
And we'll put it on the website.
And
Yeah.
website.
Put it on the website, and actually,
Cars?
that costs money, Ellen.
Wow.
Putting it on the cars. Tip line.
Oh, like those giant magnets. Those aren't even that expensive.
Well, we can use our message board to the message out that way also. We'll come up with some strategies to try to get the message out. Starting with you.
New business, I have
Can I
none.
add something to old business I just thought of?
You already
No,
did
the
very
agenda
much.
was approved, sorry, no.
Well,
No.
we do it.
No, go ahead.
No, I just want to know from the
To,
chief,
approve the cameras, just for the letter to,
Oh,
let's
do
use
I have to
account.
sign this?
No, just see the council, we
Oh.
can say what we're spending
Chief.
on to give the
do
support.
you know if the town board has finally submitted the paperwork for the dog grant?
Yes, the
Yes.
dog grant paperwork is finalized. What I would say is that the only thing that has not yet been done is a budget line item. There's another line that's going to the town. We spoke with the bookkeeper today. The information was given to the town to create an income revenue line for the grant money coming in. A line still has to be drafted in the budget that money will go into that we can draw from. So that still has to be approved through the town board, so
That's a problem to me.
it is a problem for us too.
Because, no, because it's not going to the dog. The dog is charged to personnel. That's the way they do it. They charge it to the personnel line. So we're always getting, well, you're over in this and you're over in that. We get a grant for the dog. That should go against the expense for the dog, which is the personnel line. Why should it be being used for the pool?
It can't be a personnel line, it has to go into a revenue line, then they have to create the line item in our budget that's set up for the canine, and it's only for purchase of equipment, vet bills, some miscellaneous things like that.
Okay, I'm
That's what
just
it's-
saying,
That's what it's for.
Since they're charging the dog to the personnel line should be reduced by whatever the dollar amount of that grant is. Because that's not personnel, they put it in the personnel line, but it's a contract. The dog officer is contractually bound to get whatever amount of money for the care and feeding or whatever the dog or for his training. That's all I'm saying is that, I hate seeing income that we generate going somewhere other than the police line. And when they create a new line, we ain't never gonna see nothing.
So it's supposed to be
Excuse me for my way of saying it,
canine
but-
line, so,
Yeah, I thought there was.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Randall.
Well, we can, I think, you know what, I'll go back, because I think Jeff may have responded to me, because we made the inquiry, and he said there should already be, what is it, a .4 line for,
.400 for miscellaneous expenses.
no, I thought there was another
Point
expense
4 is our
line.
line.
Right.
And that has a breakdown.
Is it?
So it's
Yeah,
supposed
so
to
I
go to
don't-
that line.
Yeah,
Point 4 is for the chief's budget right now.
okay. This needs just.
To basically just say that we're going to use these assets to replace some digital
Okay.
cameras in the cars.
The chief is informing us that he's going to use seized assets to replace digital cameras in the car. We don't really
I
have
make
to
a
do
motion, we
anything.
endorse the chief's request
It's
to
an
the town
endorsement.
board.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So moved, done. Got
This
that,
is to
Becky?
replace some ancient cameras that can't even get
That was little too fast for you there. The commission concurs with the chief's recommendation to use seized assets to upgrade or purchase,
replacement.
replace new in-car camera video systems for patrol units.
How many will there be?
3 of them. 3 of them are being replaced.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Amy,
Thank you,
and it was unanimous.
thank you. Got it.
Yeah, once the warranties run out on the cameras, the expense of just purchasing a yearly warranty is very expensive. Plus, the original cameras that we're replacing, they don't even make replacement parts for them anymore. So,
What kind of media do they record onto?
a disc, a small disc, and then it comes into the station and it's manually downloaded. It gets put into our computer system and it downloads. They have another system out that can automatically do it when you pull into the parking lot. There's been some issues that we've seen in some of those where, because of having to leave right in the middle of the download, there's a break in it, and sometimes it does not pick up.
Right.
So this has been worked very well for us for many years. And same system, a little bit more modern technology as things come along, but the new cameras work right with our software also that we already have in the computers, so we don't have to add or change anything.
Just to jump back real quick, the discipline notification, I guess when you have your next one, you can use the
The format,
whatever
see how it
form
works.
you come, yeah, and see how it works, and we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. Critique the form and deal with the problem.
Yeah.
Okay? Any announcements?
I have a quick one. I just wanted to say that I attended Zero Waste Day on June 8th. It was put on by Laura Petit at the New Paltz Recycling Center. The event was actually at the community center. It was a great community event. She intends to have a series of these events. It's a great way to empower different members of our community, educate our community, get people together, and use our community center. So I wanted to thank Laura Petit and the Recycling Center for that marvelous event, and welcome everybody to look out for more great events.
Any others?
Recycling Center.
Any other matters? Do we
We
need
do have a quick
this-
executive. Yeah.
Okay. We need to go into executive session, so the chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session briefly. Ira?
Why are you looking? I make a motion, we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing hiring, firing.
Personnel,
Personnel is not executive, but hiring, firing, salaries. et cetera.
contractual, blah, blah. Is
I
there a
second
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Thank you all.